Good evening, everybody. Breaking tonight, the judge handling the Fusion GPS records case has been ousted. Fox News confirms the Obama appointee has been replaced by a Bush appointee. We do not know the exact reason for the replacement of that judge. It is possible the judge had a conflict of interest. It is also possible, well, a dozen other things as well. We'll bring the reason to you as soon as we have it. And another Obama-appointed judge is staying right where he is, protecting Hillary Clinton. Judge James Boasberg dismissing a Judicial Watch lawsuit demanding the government do more to recover Hillary Clinton's emails. We'll take it all up with Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton right here tonight. Also tonight, Special Counsel Robert Mueller closing in on former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Mueller now probing Flynn's role in an alleged plot to abduct a Muslim cleric in exchange for $15 million. We'll have a full report, and President Trump pushing uncompromising economic nationalism on the world stage. The president stressing in a speech in Vietnam that he will put always America first. And his audience of Asian presidents and prime ministers applauded his candor and his straight talk. We'll have those stories and much more here tonight. We begin with the Russia investigation, which has taken a bizarre turn. Special Counsel Robert Mueller now reportedly moving far afield from investigating solely Russian collusion. Now Mueller is reportedly looking into whether General Michael Flynn was involved in a scheme to seize a Muslim cleric who lives in America in exchange for millions of dollars. Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge with our report.
Lou, Fox News can confirm special counsel investigators are probing former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn's contacts with senior Turkish officials and whether they ever discussed the removal or abduction of a U.S.-based cleric who is a rival and critic of the Turkish president. The cleric Fethullah Gulen lives in Pennsylvania, and President Erdogan blames him for instigating an attempted coup in July 2016. The Wall Street Journal alleged today that Turkish government officials offered Flynn and his son $15 million during a December 2016 meeting at New York's 21 Club in exchange for delivering the cleric. Fox News can't independently confirm details of a December meeting or whether Flynn took part, though a source close to the special counsel case said all contacts are being explored. Former CIA Director Jim Woolsey first went public with allegations that Flynn and senior Turkish officials discussed the issue during an earlier meeting in September when Flynn was National Security Advisor to the Trump campaign. In this Wall Street Journal interview, Woolsey said he joined the Flynn meeting in progress.
There was discussion, serious discussion, of finding some way to move Mr. Gulen out of the United States to Turkey. I think, since I only heard part of the discussion, I could have missed an early statement that put some kind of caveat on it by somebody. But you might call it brainstorming, but it was brainstorming about a very serious matter that would pretty clearly be a violation of law.
Flynn's team doesn't usually comment on media reports, but today they issued a rare statement, calling the allegations ranging from kidnapping to bribery that are so outrageous and prejudicial that we are making an exception to our rule. They are false. Woolsey had no comment today. In October, Reuters reported Woolsey pitched two Turkish businessmen on a $10 million contract to discredit the same cleric, and the former CIA director was in communication with the special counsel about those claims. Lou?
Catherine, thank you very much. Amazing story, an amazing development. Catherine Herridge reporting from Washington. A major blow to the search for answers in the Hillary Clinton email scandal. An Obama-appointed judge has once again dismissed a Judicial Watch lawsuit that would have forced the federal government to work harder, more thoroughly to recover then Secretary of State Clinton's missing emails. Judge James Boasberg ruled that the government has done all it, quote-unquote, reasonably could to locate any missing emails, and there are lots of them, despite reports that the State Department is sitting now on a backlog of tens of thousands of unreleased Clinton emails. Joining me now, Judicial Watch President Tom Fenton. Tom, great to have you here.
Hi, Lou.
This is quite a night, and we are delighted you're with us to try to sort through all of this. Let's start with the special counsel now investigating an allegation that General Michael Flynn was involved in some sort of quid pro quo, apparently to either extradite, abduct, whatever you would, a Turkish cleric and dissident who's lived in this country for many years and return him to Turkey for millions of dollars.
Well, I don't believe General Flynn was involved in anything like that. The news would be these days if the special counsel is actually doing something the special counsel was hired to do, which is investigate Russia collusion. He really has no business investigating General Flynn for this. It's outside his purview, in my view, and it's further reason as to why it should be shut down. Now, if there's something to be investigated, the Justice Department should handle it directly. But this is not what Mr. Mueller was hired to do. And, you know, there was another report this week, Lou, I don't know if you saw it. Wall Street Journal says the Justice Department, the U.S. Attorney's offices, and other aspects of the Justice Department are investigating the DNC hacking. Mm-hmm. Mueller isn't. This was the basis for all the Russia collusion screaming we've heard about, that the Russians hacked the DNC. Mueller isn't even looking at that. He's just looking at everything but what he was hired to do, which suggests there ain't much to look at in terms of Russia collusion.
I think it does, if logic applies in this case, and that remains an open question, but the logic, yours is compelling. Why is there no oversight of this special counsel before we move on to a number of other critically important issues? Why is there no oversight, either at Justice or in the Republican-led Congress and Senate, that would return Mueller's attention to his mission, which is Russian collusion?
Well, I think the special counsel regulations in that regard are constitutionally deficient because they hire the special counsel, in this case Mueller, and the appointed officials we trust, who are confirmed by the Senate and answerable and accountable to the people, then take a step back and let him do whatever he wants to do, practically speaking. And that's why I think he needs to be reined in, the regulations need to be rewritten, and we need an uncompromised constitutional special counsel to do anything else. Maybe it's too late with Mueller, but I'm going to protect Hillary Clinton from a special counsel that's unconstitutional and out of control.
It's stunning. Judicial Watch, you've been blocked once again. How upset should President Trump be when he finds out that the Obama-appointed judge has once again blocked your lawsuit?
Well, he may not be surprised by that. Now, this judge,
I didn't suggest he'd be surprised. I'm asking.
But this is the second time we've been before him on this issue, and he was overturned on appeal once, and I suspect will be successful in the long run here. What he'll be angry about.
Let me interject, because you went off on surprise, and I'm not talking about a surprise. I'm talking about how concerned, how upset should he be, or any of us in this country, that a political judge has once again blocked the public's right to know, and secondarily, if you will, taken 2 years to get to an answer, which is no. This is outrageous, in my opinion.
Well, he's going to be more outraged at the fact that it was his administration who asked the judge to do what the judge did this week. The judge in his decision, Lou, said, you know, the administrations have changed, but the government stance hasn't. And the Obama administration didn't want to do it, and shockingly, the Trump administration came in, and they didn't want to enforce the law requiring the State Department to initiate action with the Justice Department to go and retrieve these government records Hillary Clinton took with her. So what's outrageous, you know, we don't like the judge's decision, but the fact is we shouldn't be in court given what this president promised and what his appointees are, you would presume, want to be doing. But instead, you've got his appointees, the Justice Department and State Department, defending Hillary Clinton in court. And in this case, blocking Judicial Watch's efforts to force them to comply with the law to go and get these records. That's the outrageous aspect of this. You know, to have a judge rule one way or another,
well, it's, it's an additional outrage, I will grant you that.
Right,
and we were trying to get some reaction to it. We haven't been able to get a straight answer. Have you? From the administration?
Well, we know what the answers are. We've been battling them in court since day one on this. And I don't understand why.
What is the answer then to this question that we're asking, which is why would the Trump administration's Justice Department not insist upon the delivery of these emails?
There is no answer. Well, I mean, we've pushed back, and they don't give us an answer. They just are fighting us in court.
We're on exactly the same piece of ground. Let me turn to a change, a hopeful one in light of what must be done. Fusion GPS, the judge overseeing the Fusion GPS records case, reassigned an Obama appointee, a Bush 41 appointee being moved in his place. Why? Do you have any sense of it?
I don't. I mean, my first instinct is that it was an administrative move by the court. They were rebalancing caseloads or something like that. If it was something more substantial, there might be public disclosure over the next few days on it. I'm not aware of any effort to recuse her outright. And usually if there's a recusal issue, there's a public discussion of it. So it's certainly curious to have the judge leave this case in the middle of it, but stranger things have happened.
And stranger things await us, I'm sure. We thank you, as always, Tom. Tom Fitton. We're coming right back. We've got a lot more. It has been a day of extraordinary developments, and we'll be taking a look at many of them, if not all of them. Stay with us. President Trump warns Kim Jong-un to stop his dangerous provocations.
Every single step the North Korean regime takes toward more weapons is a step it takes into greater and greater danger.
We take up the president's strong rhetoric against the rogue regime with General Jack Keane. And special counsel Robert Mueller apparently zeroing in on former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Flynn now under investigation for reportedly talking about expelling a Turkish dissident back to his country in exchange for millions of dollars. We take that up and much more straight ahead. Stay with us. Our top story tonight, President Trump reaffirms his America First policies in Asia. The president using his speech in Vietnam to say he will protect American interests against foreign exploitation every time.
We are not going to let the United States be taken advantage of anymore. I am always going to put America first, the same way that I expect all of you in this room to put your countries first.
Straight talk. Remarkably, those presidents, prime ministers, national leaders in Asia applauding the president for speaking as he does almost every time, bluntly, directly, and forcefully. The president is in Vietnam for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, APEC. There was speculation the president would have a formal meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but that isn't going to happen. The two leaders, however, did shake hands for a moment and greet each other before dinner. The editor-in-chief of RT says the Russian news network will now register as a foreign agent here in the United States. The Department of Justice began pressuring RT to register back in September after intelligence agencies concluded RT operated as a propaganda arm of the Kremlin during the 2016 election. Now, in my opinion, what is interesting about that is not that it occurred in September, but that the entire administration of President Barack Obama did not once ask RT to register as a foreign agent, and the question has to be asked, why not? A further question follows. Why hasn't anyone on Capitol Hill asked that question of the former president? The head of RT, for his part, says he still believes the request to be one that is crazy and illegally. Nonetheless, they will comply. Joining me now, retired four-star general, Fox News military analyst Jack Keane. General, great to see you, and I have to ask, it appears to be a trip that is immensely successful on the part of President Trump. The open question is there any sign of progress with Xi Jinping on the issue of North Korea?
Well, first of all, I definitely agree with you, Lou. Strategically, this is largely a very successful trip, and because what the president has managed to do is reassure our allies that the United States leadership is back in the Pacific, that we want to denuclearize North Korea without a catastrophic war, that we want to stand up against Chinese aggression in the region, and as you mentioned in the introduction, that we want to push back on these significant trade imbalances that we've had throughout this entire Indo-Pacific region. So all that said, positive trip. Get to the specifics. Listen, he's enhanced the relationship with President Xi for sure, also with Abe in Japan and in Vietnam, and those are all positive. I don't think we're going to know for certain for some time whether China has really stepped up, one, to increase their stranglehold on Korea greater than what it is, and two, with a more accelerated sense of urgency to do that. Those are the two things, you know, we truly need. And the other thing I'd add here, you know, it really comes down to whether Xi believes Trump when he says, if China fails to denuclearize North Korea, then I will do it. And his option to do that is war. If Xi believes that that war option by Trump is serious, then he's likely to do something. If he doesn't believe it's serious, then he will probably provide reassuring words, roll us a little bit on capabilities, and North Korea will get a nuclear missile capability.
And that calls into question the President Moon of South Korea, his decision not to cover Seoul with those THAAD anti-missile defense systems. This is becoming a bit of a strain for the United States strategically when the country that it has invested so much money, so many of our troops, some 26,000, plus a history of war that goes back 6 decades. This is a strained moment, is it not, when it should be a moment in which there is solidarity?
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's two relationships out there that are not that strong. One is with this leader and the other is with the Philippine leader. But here, this one's much more serious, obviously, as you mentioned. He is a left-of-center leader who got into office on taking a softer diplomatic approach with North Korea, and also his predecessor got found up in corruption and some other things, who was pretty strong on North Korea. And since he came into office, he reached out to North Korea. North Korea summarily ignored him, and the Chinese clamped down on him very hard in terms of tourist trade, cutting off some economic opportunities with him, and told him not to expand the THAAD missile program. And he's agreed with China not to expand it. So I think he accommodated President Trump during his visit. He didn't want to show certainly any public differences with him, yes, but we don't have the strong relationship with South Korea that we've had in the past.
And of course, the coercion on the part of China against South Korea, it appears that Xi has missed the target, that is Kim Jong-un. We'll see how this develops. As always, General, great to have your insight. Thanks.
Yes, great talking to you, Lou.
Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. Do you believe President Trump's straight talk has been met with a warm welcome in Asia? And do you believe that it's sort of odd that straight talk in Asia is better received than it is often here at home? That's our question. We'll fix that in just a moment. Meanwhile, cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. We'll be posing the question again in the second half of the show. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs tonight. On Wall Street, stocks closing mixed. The Dow down 40 points. The S&P down 2. The Nasdaq up a fraction. Volume on the big board, 3.4 billion shares for the week. The Dow, S&P, and Nasdaq all posting fractional losses. That hasn't happened for ages. I absolutely reject these results. We'll do a recount. A reminder, listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network. Up next here, Judge Roy Moore fighting back, denying allegations of decades-old incidents of sexual misconduct. That's the allegation. Now one accuser is revealed to, well, have been working for the Hillary Clinton campaign. 3 to go. We'll have the full report for you here next. Stay with us. Senate candidate Roy Moore of Alabama is speaking out for the first time since allegations of decades-old sexual misconduct were reported by the Washington Post. Judge Moore calling the allegations, quote, completely false and misleading during a radio interview. Moore's comments come as local media reports one of his accusers worked as an interpreter, sign language interpreter, for the Clinton presidential campaign and other Democratic campaigns as well. The Republican establishment is running from Moore after some say he may have been pushed by the Republican establishment. McConnell and John McCain calling for his exit. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seri is in Moore's hometown of Gadsden, Alabama tonight with our report.
In the wake of the Washington Post's bombshell report alleging Judge Roy Moore made inappropriate sexual advances on a 14-year-old girl back in 1979, the conservative candidate who runs on Christian values remains defiant. So are many of his supporters.
What little I know about it, I'm not too concerned because a lot of things are fabricated, and so you don't know what to believe sometimes. I'm a big fan of Roy Moore.
But in Washington, many senators are skeptical. In a statement, Senator Mitch McConnell said if these allegations are true, he must step aside. The majority leader and Judge Moore have a contentious relationship to begin with. McConnell's super PAC spent millions of dollars trying to ensure Alabama's twice-removed Chief Justice would be defeated by incumbent Senator Luther Strange. With the election just 4 weeks away, Republicans have few options to replace Moore. The 75-day deadline has long passed to remove his name from the ballot, and getting courts involved may not do it.
As a constitutional matter, a judge could take a different approach and rule that that statutory requirement is unconstitutional, deprives people of their right to vote for the candidate of their choosing or of their party's choosing.
The challenge for Republicans is they have a slim majority in the U.S. Senate, and while Moore may not have been a reliable Republican, if Democrat Doug Jones wins, that would reduce the GOP's majority to just one senator. Election law experts say that refusing to seat a duly elected and state-certified senator would be very difficult. Secretary of State John Merrill says Alabama law allows the governor to suspend or reschedule an election, but for now, Moore's supporters are sticking with him, though their support is not guaranteed.
If they have the proof and they want him to step down, if it is true in fact, then I do agree. I think he should step down.
According to filings with the Federal Election Commission, the NRSC, the Republican Party's Senate campaign arm, has ended its fundraising agreement with Moore. Lou?
Jonathan, thank you very much. It's interesting, too, isn't it, that the questions weren't, well, they said, if true, he should step down. Not a one said, if false, what he should do. But I'm sure that McConnell and McCain forgot to include that aspect of the equation. We're coming right back with much, much more. Stay with us. The House and Senate split on major issues in their respective tax proposals. Some House GOP members coming out against the Senate version already. Is Republican leadership capable of delivering for middle-class America? We take it up with Ed Rollins. And these cyclists conquering the cobblestone streets of Mexico with incredible skill. We'll show you their amazing ride and daring do here next. We'll be right back. Stay with us. A pair of political old-timers are pondering coming out of retirement to try to undermine President Trump. They include two-time presidential also-ran Mitt Romney. He's reportedly considering carefully a Senate run in Utah next year. He'll be 71, by the way. Friends say Romney would run on his willingness to challenge the White House. Oh, yes, he would. He's an interesting piece of business. And former Vice President Joe Biden, who recently said he regrets he's not president now. Everybody, a big ooh, wants to try and correct the situation in 2020. He'll be 77 then, so you see this is a generational event. Joining me now, Ed Rollins, chairman of the Great America PAC. He served in 3 presidential administrations, political director for President Ronald Reagan. Good to have you here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Mitt Romney, are you kidding me? He goes after this president. He was an attack dog on the cheap, and he couldn't beat Barack Obama, for crying out loud.
Well, don't think he's not going to run for the Senate to be a senator. He's running to basically get back in the game again, and he will be the leader of the opposition to President Trump. This is a guy who basically does not fit and I would predict if you put his hand on a Bible, he did not vote like the last two Republican presidents did not vote for Trump. One voted for Hillary and one didn't, and I'm sure Romney didn't either. So at the end of the day, we don't need a senator from Utah. We need Orrin Hatch if he wants to stay there.
The folks in Utah have got to be thinking to themselves, well, he's a nice enough fellow, et cetera. Right. What kind of governor was he? What kind of guy are they getting there?
He was a terrible governor. He was a one-term governor who could not get reelected. In the midterm, he started running for president, was missing out of the state over 400 days in a 4-year term, and absolutely could not have been reelected in Massachusetts. So, and obviously he was a terrible candidate when he ran for president. So I think his day has come and passed, and we wish him well. We don't need more moderate Republicans. We need Trump Republicans.
Yeah, we got rhinos galore on Capitol Hill. Adding one is not the answer. Let's turn to this situation with Judge Roy Moore. Immediately, Senator McConnell, Senator McCain come out and say, well, there's the exit, Judge Moore, you better move on. We've got people even saying, you're going to have to prove your innocence, for crying out loud.
Well, first of all, there's no serious charges that have been backed up yet, and I think he's denied all the charges, and I think the reality is he got elected fair and square with the entire establishment of McConnell's organization spending millions and millions of dollars against him, and he beat them, and he won overwhelmingly against the hand-picked candidate of those guys. So my sense is it's 4 weeks to go. Let the voters of the state make their choice.
Immediately, the establishment Republican Party is going to Luther Strange to check out whether or not he can run a write-in campaign in the great state of Alabama. That was a little unseemly, don't you think?
Absolutely. Again, he was the opponent. He was handpicked by the governor. Was appointed.
Luther Strange was,
and he was defeated by Roy Moore. So at the end of the day,
boosted by McConnell and the same folks who are now calling for Moore to leave.
Roy Moore has been on the stage a long time in this state. 4 times he's run statewide, twice for governor, twice for chief judge, plus some local offices. Why, with less than a month to go, with all this junk come out, unless the Washington Post is out making it up, which certainly is very feasible.
It's just
it's
ugly.
Let the voters make their choice. The voters basically will hear a lot about this in the next couple of weeks, and obviously they get.
Well, the people of Alabama have got a clear choice. I mean, they're either going to be told what to do by the Washington Post, the Republican establishment, or they're going to decide for themselves. And the way that works,
this is one of the most conservative states. It's very strong evangelical, and he's been a very significant leader in that movement. So I think it'd be very tough to beat. So
let's go to the issue of the Republicans right now, the tax cuts. We're looking at 2 different paths here. And yet we're hearing so much gnashing and wailing, gnashing of teeth and wailing, that it sounds like this isn't going down well with everybody. Well,
I don't think the Senate wants a tax bill. I mean, I think if the thing they came forth with is not passable in the House, and they know that. The reality is they need to think like a parliamentary system and sit down and say they all want a tax cut, want a tax bill. Let's get a bill we can pass quickly in both houses. If you can't, then obviously you're gonna lose again, and lose big in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I haven't checked the calendar, but I think we're looking at about 16 days.
And the idea that you're going to get 2 bills passed through the House and the Senate, and debt ceilings and all the rest of those stuff, it's not going to happen if they don't fix it.
Great to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
Ed Rollins,
nice
thank you. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question is, don't you find it interesting that President Trump's Asian audience is more appreciative of his straight talk than the left is here at home? See how I did that? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Please roll the video now and watch as these cyclists put their skills to the test, racing down narrow alleyways, cobblestone streets, and stairs in Mexico. Thousands of people turned out cheering on the cyclists as they roared. Well, they don't roar, but they rushed through the annual race in Taxco, a town southwest of Mexico City. Up next, Senate Majority Leader McConnell changing his tune. He made a promise on tax cuts. His message got a little confusing and a little embarrassing for the party.
But at the end of the day, nobody in the middle class is going to get a tax increase. And we are committed to middle-class tax relief and business tax changes that keep our jobs here in America.
Not exactly. Steve Forbes joins me here next. We'll talk about the latest on tax reform and the McConnell gaffe. He straightened it out since. We'll tell you all about it. Stay with us. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell walking back his claim earlier this month that no middle-class Americans will see a tax increase under the Senate tax reform plan. And the Majority Leader now telling the New York Times, quote, "I misspoke on that. You can't guarantee that absolutely no one sees a tax increase," end quote. Joining me now to sort it all out, Forbes Media Chairman, Editor-in-Chief Steve Forbes, who is, for all the world, he knows everything about taxes and cuts. Great to see you.
Good to see you.
And politics as well. And what in the world was McConnell thinking saying that?
Obviously, he wasn't. And what we're seeing unfolding here is a portrayal of the president the way they did on health care. I think they will get a tax bill just because on the House side they know if they don't, they're toast. And they could even lose the Senate next year if they don't get something done.
This is a little gift from the Republican-led Senate to the Democratic Party and all the Democratic candidates for Congress.
This is one of the most inexplicable things. Why they put on themselves a straitjacket where they can't do a good straight tax cut. Do the 20% corporate rate. Do the same thing for pass-throughs. On the individual side, yeah, make your first $25,000 free of tax and get everyone a 10% tax cut.
Well, I think you and I both know that this leadership can barely agree on good morning, the leadership of the House and the Senate.
Well, that's why that now old joke, if you want to stop the aging process, put it before Congress, takes on more and more relevance. They can't get
or is it the inverse? If you want to assure the aging process, watch these guys operate. This president has just put on, again, another bravura performance in Asia.
Starting with a speech in the South Korean Assembly.
Absolutely. And doing so under the most difficult of circumstances. I don't believe most people paying attention to the fact that the relationship with Moon, the South Korean leader, and the president are not good because Moon is playing out his, if you will, accommodative stance with North Korea. That's creating immense problems for a president who wants to do the right thing.
What the president did in the assembly, where he praised South Korea, their great progress, in terms of public opinion, I think Moon is finding himself more accommodating to Trump, precisely because Trump has a better gauge of where South Korean opinion is about the North. And so it's Moon who's more changing. And the fact that he's dithering on having a defense system, that's backfiring. Seoul knows they're vulnerable. They want all the help they can get.
Meanwhile, the entire city of Seoul is unprotected by the THAAD anti-missile defense system.
And that's where Moon is courting unpopularity. Why wouldn't you put the system there? You think North Korea is going to spare you if there's a war? No way.
Well, remember, these are the same people who elected him. To lead
because there was no opposition. Right. There was no credible opposition.
Okay. Meanwhile, they don't have a anti-missile program.
I think in a year they will.
If you think this is going to last another year, you may be amongst the few who do, because this president is right now facing immense challenges from Kim Jong-un.
Well, I think the Chinese are beginning to realize if something meaningful isn't done, whether it's the Caligula solution, where the great leader of the North suddenly has a terrible accident, boo-hoo, or some other thing happening, they know we are going to ramp up the real pressure. I think they're beginning to realize we are serious in a way the three previous presidents who've dealt with this were not.
And I want to close with, if I may, Alabama, Judge Roy Moore. A very eager Mitch McConnell and John McCain suggesting immediately if the charges are true that you should leave the race. He says he will not. And it's interesting that neither McConnell nor McCain or any of the other establishment Republicans said if the charges are false, then Judge Moore, you should do this. Why are we watching this unfold? I mean, this is really unseemly and shows the party is tremendously split.
Well, and in the atmosphere post Harvey Weinstein, no one wants to get on the wrong side of that. And the key thing is the if. And the allegations came from if there's
there is a matter of truth and
due process.
Absolutely.
And he's made it clear. Moore's made it clear he's going to want due process. And if they don't come up with evidence, real evidence, I think he could win.
Well, the first evidence in is that one of the four accusers is a Hillary Clinton